Hi, second grade. Today we're going to read a story called The Legend of Old Befana. This is a story, and it was the author and the illustrator is Tomie dePaola. He's the author and the illustrator, which means he wrote the book and he drew the pictures in the book. We're going to read a little bit more about this legend of Old Befana. La Befana is a holiday. It is celebrated in Italy every single year. So it's a holiday just like Christmas, just like Las Posadas, just like New Year's. There's a celebration and a holiday in Italy called La Befana. And so we are going to learn a little bit about La Befana and who La Befana is and how she became La Befana. So let's read and find out a little bit more. Every year on the Feast of Three Kings Day, on January 6th, Old Befana visits all of the children in Italy, and she leaves them candies, cookies, and gifts. It is said that she's looking for the Christ child. There are a lot of different stories about Old Befana and how she started searching, but this is one of those stories. This is the legend of La Befana. In a small house on the outskirts of a small village in Italy lived Old Befana. She lived all alone and she was not very friendly. If any people dared to knock at her door, she never let them in. "I have no time for visiting," Old Befana would say. The children didn't like her either. "Cranky old lady," they said. "And the way she is always sweeping." That was true. Every single morning and every single afternoon, Old Befana would sweep with her broom. She swept her little house, she swept her front step, and she even swept her sidewalk all the way down the road. Sometimes a delicious smell of baking things would drift off from Old Befana's home. "Who does she even bake for?" the neighbors would ask. And some nights they thought that they heard her singing lullabies. "Crazy Old Befana," everyone called her. One evening, after Old Befana had eaten her dinner and swept her kitchen clean, she began to get ready for bed. She locked the door and shuttered the windows closed. And then she climbed into bed, she blew out the lamp, and she fell asleep. There's her going to sleep. But in the middle of the night, Old Befana woke up. Her room was bright. "How can that be?" she asked. "My lamp is out and my windows are shuttered, but my house is still filled with light." She got out of bed and crossed the cold floor. When she opened the shutters, a sudden burst of light poured into the room. In the eastern sky, she saw a brilliant, bright star, which seemed to grow even bigger right in front of her eyes. "Huh," Old Befana said, closing the shutters as tightly as she could. "How am I ever going to get my sleep when the dark has turned into daytime?" All night she tossed and turned. She didn't sleep a wink. At dawn, Old Befana got up and she got dressed. She ate her breakfast and then she took her broom, as she always did, every single day, every single morning, and every single afternoon. She swept her little house, she swept her front step, and she swept all the way in the sidewalk, all the way down the road. When she neared the road, Old Befana stopped and listened. She heard bells tingling. "That's probably just the wind," she said. "Sweep, sweep, sweep." Again, she heard the bells. It's probably just the birds singing. Sweep, sweep, sweep." And again she heard the sound. "My old ears are playing tricks on me," she said. Sweep, sweep, sweep. Suddenly, over the hill came the most glorious procession Old Befana had ever seen. There were camels elephants, horses, and people. A splendid and beautiful sight. Halfway back rode 3 royal-looking men, all dressed in jeweled fancy robes, and they were wearing crowns on their head. This is the procession. It's a whole parade of people. The procession stopped. The 3 kings got down and they came to a frowning old Befana. "Please," said one of the kings in a royal voice, "is this the way to Bethlehem?" "How can I say?" old Befana said. "I've never heard of it." And she began to sweep. "We are searching for the child," said the second king. "Do you know him?" "There are many children," said old Befana, sweeping still. "But this one is a king," said the other king. "I know nothing of royal matters. I don't know anything about kings," old Befana said. "Our books have told us," said the kings, "that when a bright new star appears, the child king will be born in Bethlehem." "The star I saw," said old Befana. "It kept me awake all night. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do," said old Befana. The procession started back up again. "Old woman," called a boy who was leading the camel, "you should come with us. This child, the baby king, he has come to change the world. He comes for us, for the poor, and we are bringing him gifts." Old Befana paused. She watched as the procession winded down from the road. "A child king," she muttered, "in Bethlehem. Sweep, sweep, sweep. Coming to change the world. Coming for the poor. Well, heaven knows, old Befana is poor. Sweep, sweep, sweep. Gifts. Only for a child." Old Befana went back into her house. "Maybe I should go see him. But what do I have to take him?" She put down her broom, she got out some butter and sugar and flour, and she blew on the fire and added some wood, and then she began to sing. She baked all day, she didn't even sweep. It was almost dark when she finished. Then she filled a basket with all of the cakes and cookies and candies she made. "I'll take a few coals and a little pot to keep the cookies warm," she said. There she is baking. She put her broom down. She put on a shawl and she opened the door. "And I'll take my broom to sweep the room clean for the baby's mother because she'll probably be tired." Old Befana stopped. She hadn't swept all day. "It won't take me long," she said. She put down the basket and she started to sweep. She swept her little house, she swept her front step, and she even swept her walk all the way down the road. Then she locked her door and gathered up her basket. She put on her shawl around her and she took up her broom. Old Befana was on her way at last. She ran at first and ran and ran and ran as fast as her legs would carry her. But then the sun went down. But she still ran, and now the star was shining bright. Her breath became short, her old legs were aching, but still she ran, a little bit slower. At last she sat down beside the road. Old Befana could run no more. "I should have just left earlier. I'll never catch up," she cried. "And where even is Bethlehem?" She closed her eyes and she gave a long sigh. "I'll never find the baby king." Suddenly, the sky was filled with light and heavenly angels started to sing. "Glory to the men, a new king is born. Tonight is the night of miracles." Old Befana rose up to her feet. Tell me where he is," she cried, picking up her basket and broom. "I bring gifts to the child." she began to walk and then run again. This is the night of miracles, the angels started singing again. Wait, she shouted, you must help me. Show me the way to Bethlehem. Old Befana started to feel lighter. She ran faster and faster and faster, and so fast that it took her breath away. She was running in the sky. It was a night of miracles. Look at her, she's flying. Old Befana never got to catch up to the procession. She never found the child in Bethlehem. But actually, to this day, she's still searching. Every year in Italy, on the Feast of the Three Kings Day on January 6th, Old Befana runs in the sky. She visits all the children while they sleep, and she leaves them gifts from her basket. She even takes her broom and she makes their rooms clean. For after all, says Old Befana, I never know which child might be that king of Bethlehem. The end. So this is the story of La Befana. So every year in Italy, on January 6th, Old Befana, she flies around in the sky every single year and she leaves gifts for children. She puts the presents in the rooms of the children and she sweeps their rooms clean because she never found that baby. She never found the baby king. So now, every single year, she goes into every single child's room because she doesn't know which child in the world was that baby king. So since she never found the child, she's still looking, and she gives every single child in Italy a present, just in case they were that child. So now you learned a little bit more about the holiday called Old Befana, La Befana, and you learned a little bit about who La Befana is.